Awesome. Okay, so a quick overview, everyone. So tonight we're going to define imagery, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like when playing sports. So we're going to talk about what athletes visualize when they're practicing imagery, when they use imagery, and why they use it. After that, we're going to talk about some of the benefits of practicing imagery. And then we're going to do a couple of activities to kind of really get that knowledge to sink in. After that, I'll give you guys some tips for using imagery or for practicing it. And we'll finish up with a few training tips. So that way you guys have a really good idea of how to go about practicing and using imagery in your own sports. So again, imagery is kind of sometimes can be a tricky thing to explain. So I think the best way to go about this is to start right off the bat with a good activity. Okay. So here's what I'd like everybody to do. I would like everyone right now to close their eyes. Just close your eyes, get comfortable, and I'm going to lead you guys through this activity. Okay. So once you have your eyes closed, I want you to think of your favorite place in the whole entire world. What is it that you can see? What's the weather like? What sounds do you hear? And what are you doing in the space? Okay, I just let that sink in for a little bit. Okay. What else can I say? Are there any, are you in nature? Are there any animals around you? Can you smell certain smells maybe? Okay. So now still keeping your eyes closed. I'd like you all now to think of your most favorite food in the whole entire world. Most favorite food. What does it look like? Can you smell it? Is it cooking or has it already been prepared? How does it taste? All right. Okay, you guys can open your eyes. Does anybody want to share their experience from that? No, it's all good. Melanie, you have your hand up. Good to see you.
Thank you. And before I get started, just hello from my dads and stepmoms in Montreal, as today, or this week I should say, is National Quebec Week for Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities. So I'm here for the week. But to answer the questions, my favorite place in the entire world is a place I am hoping to visit this summer in British Columbia. I always go to British Columbia every year to visit my grandparents, and my favorite place on earth is the Salmon Arm water slides.
Ooh, very interesting. That's a great example because I like that you picked one that you haven't yet been able to see, but are dying to go see. And that's really what imagery and visualization is really about. It's about taking those memories and experiences that you do have and creating just a brand new, like very vivid, detailed image in your head. Excellent. Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. And just a little side note, I've been to the water slides several times before. These are very important water slides to my family and I. We always go there every year. And it's a little hard for me to think of my favorite food because I'm pretty flexible. The only category I might be a little picky on is seafood.
Oh, wow.
Other than that, I am pretty flexible with any and all type of food, but I'm not gonna lie when I say I'm a big giant sweet tooth.
Me too. I'm right there with you, Melanie, for sure. Angie, you have your hand up as well.
I think about to go to Disney World.
Ooh, nice
to
one.
Florida to see all the characters from the Disney
Excellent.
movie.
So when you were doing that exercise, could you see all of the Disney characters? Could you hear all the cheering? Excellent. Well done. Perfect. Thank you, Angie. Therese, I see your hand up.
Oh, I can see myself. I close my eyes and I see myself in Dominican, and I can smell all the foods in Dominican. Oh my God.
Absolutely. That's really funny you say that.
And my
I
favorite
visualize
food,
the same thing.
I was there for New Year's Eve one year, and that they had like about over 1,000 people. But one of the foods they had I'd never had before was roasted pig. Oh my God, that was
Ooh,
good.
yes,
But
absolutely.
I love every food that was there except for fish. I'm not a fish eater either.
Fair enough, Therese. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Liam, you want to share your experience from doing this exercise?
I'm sorry I'm late. 'Cause we just have to finish up my birthday thing. So
Oh, no
anyway,
problem at all.
I
That's no
think
problem.
of my favorite place where I want to be in the whole world. For
Yeah,
me, it's gonna be the coral reef.
the coral reef. Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's the
Awesome.
Great Barrier Reef near Australia.
Very cool. Great. Thank you, Liam. Becky, would you like to share your experience?
Sure. I'm gonna say my camping. I guess in the summertime, I guess I could just visualize the trailer, the beach, a few minutes walk, feeling the sand under your feet.
Mm-hmm.
What is the
Definitely.
weather like? Hot, buggy. What
No
sound did you
kidding.
hear? I guess would be the birds chirping and the ocean.
I can
What are
hear
you
it
doing
too.
in your space? Roasting marshmallows.
I love it. That's fantastic. Awesome. Thank you, Becky. So what I was trying to do with this exercise, everyone, is to just kind of demonstrate how powerful imagery and visualization can be. Even if you only practice it for a few short moments, it can really bring about very strong images and very strong feelings when we think about, for example, in this exercise, when we think about our favorite place in the world or our favorite foods, really helps us to just re-feel the emotions that we felt when we think about these things. So that's really the power of visualization. So what is imagery? What the heck is it?
Excuse me,
Oh, I'm sorry. Ooh.
that's Liam here speaking.
Oh, hi, Liam. Sorry. I see you.
And I heard you say about favorite food. My favorite food is pizza.
Good choice, Liam. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Oh, Lisa, you have your hand up as well.
I was gonna say, you're asking what I was gonna answer your question about what is imagery. I can say that.
Oh, you can. Please share.
So in my mental performance coach, that was I learned from him. Imagery is basically visualizing yourself, whether it's what you're doing. Like, so for example, in this case of a mental performance coach, we were focusing on visualizing ourselves at practice or a competition. So like, say if I'm like when I go to, like, say a ski competition, for example, or a swimming competition or bowling, whatever it happens to be, you're focusing on visualizing what you're going to do in your head. You're thinking about it, what you're going to do. And then when you're at practice or during a competition, you're focusing on visualizing how you're gonna perform. Because every sport is different, right? So
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it depends. Yeah. So I didn't know. I'm not really good at explaining, but you know what I'm trying to say.
Of course, Lisa. And you know what? You absolutely nailed it. So with that, you guys, Lisa's going to take over the presentation, and I'll see you guys next time.
Sounds good.
But I'm not good at explaining something. I just know how to say what I know, what I
you
learned.
learned. Absolutely, yeah. Lisa. Thank you so much for sharing it, because you nailed it. Absolutely. So as Lisa said, you guys, imagery is basically the process of creating or recreating experiences just by using your mind. You use memories from any of your life experiences, and what happens is your brain shapes them into more meaningful images. When I say meaningful, I mean that they're important to you. And the key here, like we just practiced, and as Lisa touched upon a little bit, the key to using imagery is that it uses all of our senses. So we use sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste when recreating these images in our minds. So if it's a little bit easier, you guys can think of imagery as like using your imagination. So if you've ever tried to do any like creative writing, or if you've just found yourself, you know, trying to do any creative projects, it's kind of like that. It's kind of like creating these big pictures and these big movie reels with your mind. Or you can think of imagery as daydreaming, but you're doing it on purpose. Because I think we can all agree, we find ourselves daydreaming when we really, really don't want to be. So yeah, think of imagery kind of in that way. It's kind of like using your imagination, or kind of like daydreaming, but with a specific purpose. And as Lisa said, that purpose is to help you perform better. So when athletes use imagery for their sport, they also use another sense in addition to the 5 that I just mentioned. And this one is called their body sense. Okay, does anybody want to take a guess as to what an athlete's body sense would be? No?
Relaxing.
Oh, I missed that one. Who said that one?
I mean, still like
Stella.
yeah.
Say that one again, Stella. I missed it.
Relaxing.
Kind of. It can be. Sort of. Who else? Melanie.
When I hear the word body sense, it means to me, like listening to your body and figuring out its strength and weaknesses, or like when you know when your body is ready to go, and maybe when your body needs to have a little break or rest.
For sure. Yeah, that's a big part of it as well. Thank you, Melanie. Kayla, what do you think body sense means?
To me, body sense means like listening to your body, of how you're feeling for your sport, maybe.
Definitely.
So what you're doing for your sport, like maybe you're excited, or maybe you're I don't know, like excited, or maybe you're nervous to compete for a competition or something like that.
Sure, that's part of it as well. Absolutely.
Or just
Liam.
learning things in general.
Yeah, definitely. Liam, what does body sense mean to you?
So for me, for body sense, just what they said, listen to my body and watch TV. Yeah.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. Lisa, I think you know the answer, so I'm gonna let you take a crack at it as well. What does body sense mean to you?
I think body sense basically means all above what everybody else said, but also to like take time to recharge, like whether it's to have a bath or a shower, or just sit down, relax, watch TV, or listen to your music, or do some coloring.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so important to performance, is having to making sure that you have a good recovery. Super duper important. Therese, body sense, what does that mean?
To me, I agree with what Lisa says. I mean, she's got it right on the thing. Body sense is like sitting down, like before you go, say, for me, for curling, right?
Mhm.
I would just sit down before I go out there and just think about what shots I'm going to take on the ice. And instead, because you would, even in bowling, we would take shots, and I more like concentrate before I take my shot in bowling. Otherwise, if I don't, the ball goes down the gutter. So you just sit down and you imagine what you're going to do.
Yeah,
and just just think about the shot you're going to take before you take it.
Yep, that's a big part of it as well. Thank you.
So yeah, I agree with Lisa. Sure,
Yeah.
she gets it right on the nail there. Way to go, Lisa.
Becky, what does body
Um,
sense mean?
I would say just having like a positive attitude and giving yourself some time away. So like self-care.
Ooh,
I don't know.
No, that's a great guess. And trust me, I'm a huge advocate for self-care. I think it's so important to an athlete's overall
Yeah.
performance.
Little
so I'm
things like that will make a difference.
100%. Thank you for sharing that, Becky. All right. You guys have really put in some really good points and you've really touched on it. So I'm going to tell you guys, excuse me, an athlete's body sense is when they imagine feeling how their body is going to move when they're performing. So they're literally picturing, okay, so for instance, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's take bowling. We've been talking about bowling. Let's take a bowling example. So a bowler's body sense, so he would say, a bowler who is imagining throwing a strike, he will visualize his feet being in the right place, and he'll feel the smooth movements of his arm, and he'll feel his weight being balanced, whatever the case may be. Using your body sense when practicing imagery means you're visualizing and you're trying to recreate the feeling of how your body's going to move when you're doing your action properly. That is body sense. Does anybody have any questions before I go on? All right. So what specifically do athletes visualize when they're practicing imagery? So one of the big things, pretty obviously, is their actual surroundings. So whatever building they're in, the field that they're on, their setting. The biggest thing that athletes like to visualize is their setting. They might visualize other people in the scene. So for like big stadium sports like football, basketball, and baseball, they could visualize the stands full of people, or maybe they're visualizing their coach or teammates on the sidelines, whatever the case may be. They also visualize, like we touched on, all of their senses, what they can see, what they can touch, what they hear, what they can smell, and what they can taste. Athletes also visualize their feelings. This is a really neat bonus of practicing imagery. And we'll touch on this more later on in the presentation, but being able to sit back and visualize and imagine certain scenarios, it gives you the chance to recreate the feelings that you felt. And if you didn't like those feelings, it gives you a chance to change them. And I'll explain more a little bit later. They also like to visualize the outcomes or the results of their performance. And this aspect is really good for helping athletes with their confidence. They can see themselves being successful more often than not. It's a great confidence booster. So when do athletes normally use imagery? And you guys have all touched on this. Most athletes, they use it during their competition, because again, it helps to keep you in that perfect focus so that you perform at your best. So see, for instance, I believe this young man is a downhill skier. I can't quite tell, but we can see in this picture that he's visualizing the jump. He's visualizing himself going down on his run. Or we've got this young football player here. He's calm, sitting in his locker room, maybe thinking about the next plays that he wants to do in the upcoming game. Tiger Woods. I think out of all the images I could find on the internet, this gentleman had the most serious imagery and visualization face. Like I could just tell how hard he was visualizing the shot. Or again, some young football players like to listen to their music on the sidelines and just get their minds into the game by picturing what it is they want to do. So, as I said, most athletes like to use imagery during competition, but for some, this could be difficult because of just the nature of their sport. And what I mean is some sports, they don't have a lot of downtime or slow moments in them for athletes to like take that time to practice bringing up a mental image, but some do. So aside from in competition, athletes like to use imagery before, during, and after practices, before, during, and after competitions. And they also like to use it for injury rehabilitation. And I'll go into this in a little bit more detail later on as well. So I know Lisa's used imagery. I believe Therese has said she's used it a little bit as well. Would anybody else like to share a time that they've used imagery while they were playing?
For me, I
Melanie.
use coffee.
Well, I didn't actually use it for, or haven't actually used it yet for sports, but when you, I just wanted to say when you saw, like, or when I read for injury rehabilitation, I immediately thought like medical imagery, like as in MRIs, because I'm used to having MRIs. So I initially thought it may have, this presentation may have sort of more or less dealt with that. As I am also waiting to have major surgery to help relieve some of my medical conditions or some of the symptoms related to my medical conditions. So when you asked that question and when I saw for injury rehabilitation, I immediately was thinking of medical imagery.
No, that's no worries, Melanie. But I thank you for sharing that as well. I'm sure that's not an easy thing to have to coming down on your schedule like that, such major surgeries. I myself have had it as well. And so what I'd like to share with you personally is if you want to use imagery and visualization, Melanie, use pictures of just watching yourself recover. That makes sense. Like you could almost as if you could see the injured body part, you can like literally see it healing and getting better. That's a terrific way to use imagery. Lisa, how have you used, when was the last time you used imagery?
Well, I'll tell you that one in 1 sec. I was gonna tell you, I was gonna add to this, and then I was gonna tell you about tonight, for example. What was I say? Oh yeah. So I find when I go to sleep at night, that's when I can visualize myself, how I'm gonna perform at practice or my competition. And when I'm on a bus going somewhere, like if it's a competition, I like listening to my music and thinking about visualizing myself, how I'm gonna perform.
For sure.
And when I'm at practice, like for example, tonight at bowling, I bowl with 2 hands. So I was thinking about my 2 feet, making sure it's shoulder width apart for the balance, and then lining myself up with the dots, and then positioning my body where I look at the, you know how there's arrows in the middle of the bowling alley?
Yes.
That goes to the pins.
Is that what that's for? I always wondered what those arrows on the floor were for. I thought they were decorative. Oh my gosh, I just learned something this evening. That's fantastic.
Well, my coach is actually helping me because sometimes I position my body and then when I have a spin on my hand to go bowling, and then I realize I got to shift my body just a little bit over so that way the ball can go right down to the center pin, and then they can knock all the pins down. Well, I'll try to, and the striker sparrow will clean up, but you know what I mean. So it's like that kind of thing. That's what I'm actually learning, like with my visualization, doing all that with my bowling.
That's fantastic, Lisa. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Well, because I can get a good so I can beat my improve my scores each week.
Improve your personal best. I love it. That's pretty much the whole purpose of visualization and imagery. That's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. Okay. Okay. So why on earth would athletes choose to use imagery and visualization? I think we've touched on it pretty well by this point, but we'll go over a couple of talking points together. So athletes use imagery to teach themselves new skills. So let's say, for example, a basketball player, their coach has designed this brand new play for them to learn, but for whatever reason, this poor athlete can't wrap their head around it. They can use imagery and their minds to bring up that scene in their heads and just practice over and over again in their own head. Or they can use imagery to improve on the skills that they already have, like Lisa has done, for example. She's a pretty good bowler, and she uses it to just keep her skills nice and sharp. Athletes use imagery because it helps them to concentrate. Because again, the whole purpose of using an imagined scene is to keep you in the present moment, and the whole content of that scene should be you performing your sport. So it really helps to just keep your mind in the present moment and focused on what it is you need to get your job done, pretty much. It motivates them because again, it gives them an opportunity to practice doing the right thing over and over again. It's going to make you feel good. You get to see yourself succeeding. It's a good feeling. Again, builds up their confidence. When you practice imagery, it's almost like a form of preparation, right? It's kind of like practicing. And when you feel prepared and ready to go into a situation, the more confident you're going to feel. Like I said, some athletes use imagery to practice a specific game plan or a strategy. I remember this specifically. I remember doing this playing baseball myself. So I'll share a really quick story with you guys. I have always wanted to, when bases are loaded, I've always wanted my batter to lay down a bunt so that I can run home really fast from third base and steal a run from the other team. I've always wanted to do it. It looks so cool in the movies, and I've always wanted to do it. So my best friend and I practiced it over and over again. Like, we talked about it, and one day, I found myself on third with bases loaded, and she was at bat, and she is the queen of laying down bunts. So we kind of just looked at each other, gave each other a look, and on that next pitch, she turned around. I watched her turn, and all I kept visualizing was my running path from where I was standing to home plate. And let me tell you, I've never run so fast in my life. But it was just, as I was waiting for the pitch to be thrown, I was standing on the base, just practicing that play over and over in my head. So I made sure that I was ready to jump off that base when I needed to. So again, really good use of imagery is for practicing a strategy or a game plan. They use it to prepare for competitions. They can also use imagery to help solve problems. So again, if perhaps maybe you find yourself really getting stuck with a specific move or situation in your sport, maybe taking a step back and just thinking about it in your mind, bringing it up in your mind, will help you to find a solution to that problem. And again, lots of athletes who've experienced an injury use it to handle the pain that's associated with that injury. As Melanie and I were saying earlier, it's a really great way for athletes who've been injured to just visualize themselves literally healing from the inside out. It's a great mental trick to help go through physio and all the discomfort that comes with that. So these are just some of the many reasons why athletes use imagery, but these are definitely like the bigger ones. I got a couple of hands up here, so I'll take a break. Becky, you have a question?
Is this okay? So to practice a game plan or strategy, I notice football players, they huddle. That's one example, I would say?
Oh, definitely. Great example, Becky. Yeah, for sure. I have to imagine that while they're discussing, because they have to pick a play, right? I think they have like a big list of different plays they can run through. So when the quarterback comes into the huddle and says, okay, we're going to do play Nike number 6, whatever the name of the play may be, it falls on the rest of the players to dig deep into their memory and try to remember what that play is and what it'll look like. So excellent example, Becky. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Therese.
talking about stories, I had a story. I was in provincials in Thunder Bay, and I was imagining what BJ wanted me to do. He wanted me to do a takeout. So what happened was I went and I thought, okay, he wants a takeout. So I went and let my stone go, and then I ended up doing a tic-tac-toe takeout. And I go, what the heck did I just
Oh no.
God, it's like, whoa, what did I do here? It's a tic-tac-toe. I thought I was only going to take out one. I ended up taking out two of the opponents and leaving our stone in.
That
Oh.
is very impressive, Therese. Okay, everybody watch out. Therese is way too good at curling, okay?
Yeah, if
Thank
we
you.
get coaches back.
Yeah. Robert, do you have something you'd like to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add for that. So especially, excuse me, I'm sorry I'm late, but the one that they said the cabin didn't work. So my mom had to help me with something, so that's why I'm late. And I was just gonna ask that it's okay to feel frustrated. It's just your first time playing calling any sport that you haven't played in your life. Just like you said, okay, I think I'm gonna do okay. You're not like, you don't have to be upset, angry, anything. You can just say, I want to try. I can do my best. I don't think I can, but I want to like try my best to do it as much as we can.
Absolutely, Robert. That's such a great point. Combining positive self-talk with positive mental images, that's a great approach to really making sure that your performance is right where it needs to be. Excellent point. So, some of the benefits of practicing imagery. So, as I touched on earlier, you guys, the scenes that an athlete creates using imagery, these are safe.
Sorry to interrupt, guys, but I have to focus. I'm on the phone with a friend, so I'll talk to you guys later.
Oh, no problem, Rochelle. Thank you for joining us.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye.
So as I was saying, when you're practicing imagery, the scenes that you come up with in your minds, these are safe spaces that are 100% in your control. And this is really, really important because in these spaces, athletes can practice their skills over and over again without physically having to move, and again, because it's such a safe space, you can just repeat the scene over and over again. You can do it in real time. You can do it in slow motion so you can really see what's happening and what you're doing. But the point is, everything that you imagine in your scene is 100% in your control. That's what makes imagery so powerful. So in addition to practicing like physical movements and things like that, athletes can also practice controlling their emotions in those scenes. So as I mentioned earlier, let's say you have an experience that you just really did not enjoy, but you know that it might happen again, so you want to change your approach. Being able to bring up that negative experience and recreating it in your mind, it gives you a chance to change up how you feel about the situation or how you'd like to feel about it going forward. Again, because it's all under your control, you can do this as many or as few times as you want until you feel confident that you see the changes that you want. And as we've discussed in previous sessions, you guys, controlling emotions is really important for controlling your behavior because our thoughts dictate our feelings, which then affects how we behave. So being able to practice your emotions is super key to visual imagery and visualization. We're going to do an activity or two. So I'll read this one out to you, but let's see if you guys can help out this poor the rookie player in this story. So Michael has loved the game of soccer for as long as he can remember. He always enjoyed playing at school and on weekends with his friends at the park near his home. Everyone that knew Michael told him he should try out for the Special Olympics team, so that is what he did. A few months later, Michael finds himself one sleep away from playing his first ever game with the Special Olympics team. He is feeling nervous and unsure of himself. How can Michael use imagery and visualization to help? Who would like to take a shot at this one? Becky, I see your
Positive
hand.
self-talk.
Positive self-talk. Can you elaborate a little bit more? What do you mean by that? What kinds of things should he be saying?
So just kind of feeling where if he's doing like alpine skiing, he kind of has to feel, I guess, how, I don't know.
No, you're on the right track. You're definitely on the right track.
Like feel how like the hills are gonna be, I guess.
Yeah.
And
Give
then
himself a
like
chance to prepare.
just kind of paying attention for the hearing part, paying attention to the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then yes.
No, that's an excellent example, Becky. Thank you. You're definitely on the right track.
I tried.
Yeah, for
Like,
sure.
I got it in my head. I can do this. And I'm like, no.
Robert, would you like to add on to what Becky was saying?
I'm just reading it in my head to myself for 1 second, and then I can tell an example. Sorry, so for this person, I don't know how to say this person's name. He can also say, like I said in the comment that I said a couple minutes ago, what that he can try say to the coach or whoever he's in the game with, say, I can try working this out with a helper if I have like a team spot that can cheer people, like cheer him on.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And
You
that'll
know
be
what?
more, yeah, for sure, Robert. Thank you. So what you're saying, it'll apply more to Michael on the actual day of the game. Right now, what he's feeling is it's kind of this nervousness in preparation for the game to come. He hasn't even played a single game with any of these with this team yet. He doesn't really know anybody. You know, he's feeling kind of nervous about it. So how can he use imagery and visualization to help him in this situation? Lisa.
I was gonna say positive self-talk, because I learned also to if you are negative about yourself, you're gonna have a negative outcome. You're not gonna perform to your best. If you have a positive self-talk, you're gonna have a better performance. You're gonna feel a lot better about yourself and about
Absolutely.
things. So I was gonna say, if it was me, like you said, this guy Michael or something, and he's nervous, he's never played before, I I would say, you know what, give it a try, and I can do it. I'm coming out to have fun and see where my weaknesses are, see where my strengths are, and you can and then maybe work on improving your personal best from there.
Excellent. Very good point, Lisa. Thank you.
As long as you're welcome. As long as you're having fun, that's all that matters.
I agree. I agree. So these are all really excellent points, everyone. So I would say for Michael, what he could maybe practice doing is seeing himself succeeding in that game tomorrow, you know? So he could like imagine himself running all the plays properly, and he can see his teammates, you know, moving as a coordinated team. Maybe he can hear the fans cheering them on or the referee's whistle. Maybe he can literally sense, he can feel his feet touching the ball when he's moving on the field. Maybe he can smell the wet grass because it rained the night before. Or maybe he can taste the sweat that's getting in his mouth because he's been running for the last hour straight. These are kind of the things that Michael can do to help get himself in a better mindset. And as you guys have pointed out, he can combine that with some positive self-talk, any cue words or slogans that he likes to say to himself to keep his mind positive, combining those two together is a great way for him to prepare for a new experience that he hasn't had before.
And I'll be right back.
Sure, no problem. All right, let's do another one, everyone. This one is for a veteran player, so someone who's been around for a little while. So Amy has been competing in rhythmic gymnastics with Special Olympics for the past 10 years. She has won many competitions in that time, but she has also had some tough performances. This week, Amy has another competition where she will be facing other gymnasts that she has had trouble beating in the past. But her coach has given Amy some new moves to try in her routine, and ones that he says will guarantee to make her win. These moves were very new to Amy, and she had needed a lot of practice to feel like she could do them right. So how can Amy use imagery to help herself? Lisa, you want to take a crack at it?
Yes, if I can remember what you're saying here. So she's won a lot. Did you say she's won a lot of competitions already?
Oh, yeah.
Too? Okay. I was going to say, and then the new moves are pretty hard, you said.
They're new to her, you know, so they're ones that she's had to practice a lot, but in terms of, you know, her every performance she's ever had, these moves are pretty new.
Okay, so what I was gonna say is have her do I would say she could have the positive self-talk and saying that I can do this. I know I can do this if I keep practicing. And she can maybe take a few, maybe practice at home, and knowing that she's got this. If she's won several competitions, and if she keeps practicing, she'll get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Lisa.
And as long as you're having fun and you're achieving your personal best.
Personal bests. I love that term. Such a good one. Thank you, Lisa.
So everyone, just remember that the topic of today's conversation is imagery and visualization. So when you're giving examples, we want to talk about how we can picture or imagine ourselves in competition or leading up to competition to stay on topic. Some of these are great points, but we're not using our imagination. We're not using, you know, the pictures in our head to come up with those answers. So when we're trying to contribute, let's try and think about how we can look at things in our head to help us perform a little bit better. Okay.
Oh, sorry. I knew what I wanted to say. It's hard to explain it that way. Sorry.
Yep. Not a problem. It's not just you, Lisa. Just always some of the answers have gone a little bit away from imagery into other things, which we've talked about before, which is awesome that you've been remembering and that you've been using those things in your own practices. But we're just trying to focus on that picture in our head right now, is how we can use those images to help us perform better in our competitions. Okay.
Just in future for when we are back at our competitions.
For sure.
Okay.
Taking pictures may help.
Taking pictures. What do you mean by that, Becky?
So when you see like a magazine, sometimes you do what we call like a visualization board. So how we're going to get there, what, you know, if we're trying to stick to a diet, we'll see, like, we'll take a picture of vegetables, say, this is what I'm going to stick to. Even when we're in competition, how we're going to get there, what we're going to eat there, which is going to be kind of like a visualization board, or it could be just taking pictures of previous events that you've been to.
Yeah, you're on the right track, Becky. Definitely. I'm going to touch up on what you said in a little bit, but I'd like to hear what Robert has to add.
Oh, so for this, Amy, I believe I'm saying this specific name. She, so how do I say this? I'm gonna read this again. Amy has been coming. Sorry, I'm trying to read this in my head to myself, but it's hard to say. I would say for Amy that she can do it. No, I can't.
That's okay, Robert. Would you like me to maybe come back to you when you've had a moment to think about your answer?
Yes, please.
No worries.
And at the end, if we have time, I have a question for you also.
Of course. Therese, do you have something to add?
Yeah. Well, Amy's got new moves, right? So what it is you go into, you're sitting down and you're closing your eyes and you're saying, okay, I got new moves, so I might as well try and figure out what these moves are and just visualize it in your head. I can do these moves, maybe new ones, but there's no such word as I can't do it. You can do it. It's just, you gotta imagine what the moves are in your head and just try and get them in there.
Absolutely, Therese, you nailed it. So I would say for Amy, exactly what you said, Therese, she could practice in her head. She could visualize herself doing that move, the brand new move, over and over and over again until she feels like she's got a good grip on it.
Like have her, like, I would say her mom can probably videotape her and then she can look back and try that move and try saying, I can do this. I can really do this. There's no such word as can't. So it's always room to try.
Excellent. Yes, absolutely, you guys. So again, I love that you're combining positive self-talk with your imagery and visualization practice. That's so important. But yeah, again, for Amy, I would say, yeah, her best bet for using imagery would be to practice those new moves in her head, or maybe to get her confidence back up, she can visualize all the times that she had an amazing competition and she just absolutely ran away with it and did so well. That could be really good for boosting her confidence, right? Robert, did you still have a question?
Oh, sorry, I came up. I do, but it's gonna be if I have time a little bit after.
Oh,
but
sure.
I had an idea for Amy. Like Teresa, she also can what's the IMAGERY stand for? I can't say. So what I'm gonna say is like Tree said, I know I have a new challenge, a new group. I can do it. I know there's new exercises, but think positive. Like think I can go on the floor. Like anyway, if you're on the floor, or if you're on a chair, or if you're on like a team on someone like a team that you don't know, anything. You know what I'm trying to say?
Absolutely, Robert. And again, that's the whole point of imagery, is literally picturing yourself in that situation and responding how you want to respond in that moment. Excellent. All right, last one, you guys. This one is for an injured athlete. So 4 weeks ago, Katie underwent ACL reconstructive surgery for an injury that she got playing basketball. For those that might not be aware, your ACL is in your knee. So poor Katie had a knee injury. Her doctor says that she's ready to begin her physiotherapy to help her recovery, but Katie is not so sure. Even though the whole point of the surgery was to make her ligament whole again so that her knee would be stable, Katie isn't convinced that her knee will be strong enough to move the way she needs to. How can Katie use imagery and visualization to help her recovery? Yeah, so this one's a little
practicing what the physio does at home, using those tools to cope.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it, Becky. But in terms of using her imagination, how can she use that to help her in her recovery?
I'm frozen. I don't know.
That's hard
I'm not
to visualize. I know what I could say, but it's really hard to picture that in your head, Kim.
It's tough, right? No, for sure. And that's exactly my point, you guys, imagery and visualization can be this really tricky thing to wrap, to explain or to describe to somebody. But really, especially so for injured athletes, the best way to use imagery and visualization is, like we touched on a little bit earlier, is to literally visualize your body healing from the inside out. I've actually experienced this exact injury and surgery myself. And what I liked to imagine was, I liked to picture like having my a robotic knee, almost, that it was made of solid metal and it was secure and it was strong enough to get me to where I needed to go. So you can use imagery in that way, right? If you can picture yourself being at 100%, it helps. It really does help with the recovery process. Angie, yes, do you have a question?
Yeah, of the thing about do a yoga class, like a yoga thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yoga is a great example of how imagery and body movements can combine in one practice, because it really forces you to slow down and to think about where your body is in the space. Excellent example. Lisa.
Yeah, I have a question about it. If I'm right about this now. So I've sprained my ankle so many times, so it doesn't stop me from doing track and field that I like to do. So I usually do a lot of stretching with it before and after. So in that case, would I be with the visualization part, would that be me picturing in my head what kind of exercises I would be doing with it?
Yeah, that's definitely a big part of it as well, too. If you wanted to make sure that if you have a very specific plan or way that you would like to recover, practicing that routine in your head, for sure, it's very, very important.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask because it's very important for athletes when you have old injuries, you have to be able to take care of it and still enjoy what you like to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Lisa.
I got a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Who's got their?
Me, Stella. Yeah, Stella. Like in water exercise, aquafit exercise is good. Like swimming exercise, I do that on Tuesdays at 1 o'clock at water aquafit exercise. It's really good.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I do that there on Thursdays. I mean, not Tuesdays there.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's excellent.
Yeah.
Who else has their hand up here? Robert, you've got your hand up again.
Just a second for this one. I was thinking for that, I was thinking maybe she could, oh no, she isn't ACL. Never mind. I was gonna say maybe she could do lunges, sitting lunges. But if she has an ACL, she can't do those. So I gotta think of another idea.
So remember, we're looking to how can we use pictures in our head to help us get over an injury. So there's lots of great ideas coming out that are about how we can recover from a physical injury, about the different stretches and the different exercises we can do. But we want to focus on how we can use images and imagery and visualization and those pictures in our head to help us recover when we're giving our examples, if we can. If you have ideas that way, that would be great to share.
Yeah. So to kind of go on your example, Robert, what Katie could do is, if she was really, really looking forward to doing a lunge, she could practice that in her head. She could sit down and visualize herself doing 50 or 100 perfectly clean lunges, and there's no pain and there's no stiffness, and she just feels really good doing it. That would be a great example of using imagery to help with recovery. Okay. This is great. So a few tips, you guys, really quick here for using imagery. The acronym that everyone likes to use is PETLEP, P-E-T-T-L-E-P. Don't worry, you don't have to remember that. It's a little. So the first P, physical. Make sure when you're practicing imagery that you visualize all of your own physical characteristics when you're performing. Because again, I really want you guys to practice imagery specifically for your sport and for your performance. Visualize the environment. Again, be as specific as you can. Use all of your senses when you're making up these images in your head. Make sure that when you're visualizing, that the details that you're visualizing are specific to whatever your performance is. So for example, if you're a bowler, I don't want you standing on the floor there and imagining yourself playing basketball or hockey or whatever the case may be. The imagery you want to use should be specific to you and your bowling match. The timing. Imagine that your performance is happening in real time or even in slow motion. So that is a really important step in making imagery really effective, because if you can see yourself performing in real time, it just makes it that more realistic to you, more vivid. Excuse me. Make sure that when you're practicing imagery and as your skills are getting better, that your imagined scene reflects those improvements. So what I mean is, let's say you've noticed your trick shot in basketball has gotten really, really good lately. When you're practicing imagery, make sure that your imagined self can perform at that level as well. Emotions. We've touched on this a little bit already. What kind of emotions do you feel when you're visualizing your performance? As you guys have all touched on, the key here is to keep it positive as you possibly can. And perspective. Think about how you are seeing the image. Are you looking at it from behind your own eyes so that you don't see yourself in the picture? Or is it more like you're watching yourself on TV, that you can see yourself in the scene as you're visualizing? Both options are great.
I have to go now because I have to go down and get something from my mailbox.
No worries, Therese. Thank you for joining us.
See ya.
Okay, some training tips, everyone. I would suggest that you practice imagery in as many different settings as you can. And the reason I say this is because, your performance setting where you're playing your sport isn't always going to have perfect conditions for practicing this kind of skill. And so if you're able to practice your imagery in all kinds of different settings with all kinds of different distractions, you're only going to get that much better at it. Try to aim for a relaxed sort of concentration. You don't want to be too tense and like thinking super, super hard when practicing imagery, because it takes up a lot of energy, right? You want to aim for something that's more relaxed, but that you're also able to concentrate on. Set realistic expectations when you're practicing imagery. And so what I mean by that is, as much fun as it would be, I don't want you guys to, for example, picture yourselves all of a sudden obtaining superhuman strength or super speed or being able to fly to get your performance the way you want it to be. Make sure that it's realistic for you and how you perform. As I've said a couple times, use vivid and controllable images. Anything that you imagine in your mind, you are 100% in control of. So just make sure to maintain that the whole time you're practicing imagery. Use very specific situations. Again, I think that imagery is best used for competition and for actually performing, but you can use this in any area of your life if you want to, as long as it's specific. And again, keep a super positive focus. The whole point of imagery and visualization is to help you perform at your best. And any sort of negative thoughts or feedback that you're giving yourself is only going to hurt your performance. Yes, one of you guys touched on this a few minutes ago. Consider using video replays or audio replays if you have access to them. Those are great tools to help you practice imagery. Yes. So visualize physically performing that movement. Use your body sense and really feel how your body is moving in that scene. And visualize the outcome that you want. That's the whole point, right? You want it to have a very positive outcome. So make sure that that happens when you're practicing. And so one more tip is that when you are performing these tasks in your imagination, the amount of time it takes in your head should be the same as if you were doing it in real life. So I'm going to go back to the bowling example again. It should only take a few moments really for you to set up on the line, get into your wind up and release the ball. So when you're imagining it in your head, it shouldn't have to take more than those few moments as well. It shouldn't take like a half hour to an hour to perform one shot. It should be the same as if you were doing it in real life. So just a quick wrap up here. Imagery and visualization are super important mental skills to learn because they help with physical skill improvement. The images that athletes create are a safe, controllable space where they can repeatedly practice their movements and their emotions in specific settings. Learning to control your mental images will allow you to change your behavior or your movements in a scenario and your emotional response to that scenario as well. This ability to control your emotions will help you to keep a positive focus, which again helps you to perform at your very best. So just remember, our thoughts control our feelings, which then control our behaviors. Super, super key. That is all I have for you guys this evening. There will be a couple of handouts that you will have access to as well. But that's all I have for you guys this evening. If anybody has any questions or last minute comments, please feel free to share them now.